Welcome to the State Specific Show, where we weave across the country and the world to highlight local sneaker culture specific to those geographic areas. My name is Gabriel Fortson. You can find me at Gabriel Fortson on all social platforms. So our guest tonight represents New Jersey by way of Brooklyn, New York. He has an affinity towards sneakers and fitteds, but his claim to fame is how he captures those items. His photography skills are known all over the world. As a freelance photographer, he works with brands such as Jordan and Nike basketball. He not only captures the culture, but is a promoter of the culture as well. Please welcome Rick to the show.
Pleasure being here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I really appreciate you, man. You know, it's one of those kind of things where we try to make sure that those people that are fully and totally engaged in moving the culture forward are part of this show, man. So thank you for coming and allowing us to have an opportunity to talk with you for a little bit.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we'll jump right in, man. So first question, what's your first memory of having a personal connection with style and culture?
First memory. First memory would probably be growing up in Brooklyn back in the 80s. Probably be my cousin. Him coming in, he was a b-boy back in the day. So the shell top with the fat laces, right? Shell top Adidas fat laces,
Yeah.
Pumas with the fat laces,
Right.
ripped jeans, hoodies, I call it the honeymooners hat with
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
raccoon style hat.
Yeah.
That was his kind of deal. And, just kind of seeing that, drawing inspiration on that as I got older, obviously, this fashion and the styles have changed, obviously, throughout the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. The name is Charlie Bones. He was one of those guys on the cardboard doing the handstands and breakdancing and stuff. That
Dope,
was the
dope.
guy that kind of set the precedent, set that emotion for me. So I owe
Okay.
it to him, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Okay. No, that's dope, man. That's
Yeah.
and it's great. And you're right. It's like the imagery back then was so different, man,
Oh yeah.
with the dress and how they took the jeans and they did the spray painting on the jeans and that kind of thing,
Oh, that
man.
was
Like,
huge. Yeah.
man,
Graffiti was a big thing too, man, in the
yeah,
80s. That was, tagging up on the wall and getting your name out there. And,
right.
obviously you didn't want to be caught dead looking like a joke. So you made sure you were dressed up well. And, either you went to the local house party or whatever the case may be, but, you had to be fresh.
Absolutely. Had to be, man. Had to
Hmm.
be. Um, so, growing up in Brooklyn,
Hmm.
how do you describe the style there when you were growing up?
Um, Melting pot, in a sense. I think they were, bits and pieces taken from, a Brooklyn style, a Bronx style, Harlem, Manhattan, and things like that. And they all just kind of got incorporated. It was the stuff you saw in the magazines,
Yeah.
Word Up and Source and
Yeah.
all of those different things. And you kind of just pulled in, and some people either followed the formula of what they saw in the magazines or on a video music box or things like that, and just kind of took off and did their own thing, or took off and did their own thing, and dressed how they felt, would speak to them in a sense. And you kind of got an idea of that growing up and seeing people's individuality. And we had this one guy. He was they called him Leche. He was a white guy, but he kind of blended hip hop and rock in a sense, and how he dressed. So it was like sneakers that were associated with hip hop, but then like maybe like a shirt or a jacket was associated with rock and roll. So it was kind of like a blend. You saw Aerosmith and Run DMC back in the 80s. That was like the
Absolutely.
guy that he just said, you know what, we just put it all together and make it work. And it worked. It worked. Definitely worked for him.
No doubt, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that era, man, it was being individuals like it was the norm, right? It was like you gotta find your own lane. We lived off not biting each other, right? And those times were cool, man, because it could be a situation to where you and I could have the same shirt or the same hat or whatever, but we're gonna just do it so differently to the point to where it's almost not even noticeable that they're the same. So
Correct.
yeah, yeah, those were good times, man.
Good times. Definitely. We're waxing poetic. I'm not waxing nostalgia right now, but
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when as far as you individually, when did the sneaker bug hit you? Like, was it at a young age or did that come later?
It I mean, growing up as a kid, a single family house, mom did what she could, and occasionally you get like, a regular Nike or whatever the case may be. It wasn't like that, flashy.
Yeah.
Jordan didn't really come into play obviously till like mid 80s, late 80s.
Hmm.
And then, Nike basketball, Jordan, Air Jordan, things like that, late 80s, early 90s. So, like I said, she did what she could. And then I was in Catholic school growing up until about I say about eighth grade. So wearing those types of things, and that was in the mid 90s, early 90s, 91, 92. Um, Wearing those types of clothes wasn't really necessary. You wore a uniform 70% of the time. So it didn't really matter, right? Growing up. It wasn't until I got into middle school, and that was a public middle school. And my mom, again, did what she could. I got some no frills Nikes
Yeah.
and I don't even remember the shoe. I just know it was garbage. And I got, when I tell you, ridiculed from first period all the way to the end of school. And I mean, crying, coming home and begging, like, "Ma, you got to do something for me.
Yeah.
You can't, you're leaving me out to dry over here." And then it was closer towards the end of the year, and had a conversation with my dad. And I said, "Look, here's what's going on. Can you help me out? Can you do something for me?" And he says, "Yeah, we'll see what we could do." And it was around the time the Jordan 9, which is going to release soon, the white, black, and red one that came out.
Yeah.
It was the 94, and gives you the money for it. Says, "Look, just go get yourself a pair." And they were like 120, I think, with tax. And I went to every store that I could go to in Brooklyn, Queens, wherever you name it. I hit up, and I couldn't find them, and I finally did. And that shoe is what I would say is the catalyst. That's the one that catapulted me into this whole thing, because at that point it was like I couldn't stop. The 9 came into play. I reached back, I had him grab a pair of Jordan 8s for me, and the 10s came into the fold with the steel
Yeah.
toe, the toe cap. You and I have an affinity for that. We know how we
Absolutely.
feel about that shoe.
No doubt.
And it took off, man. From Diamond Turfs to Nikes to Reeboks above the rim, black tops. It did Shack Attacks.
Yeah.
Anything I could get my hands on at that point was like it was on. So I say from like 93, 94 on, and so what is that? 33 years now. We're talking. So
Yeah, that's dope, man.
yeah,
And
man.
it's cool to like have that memory that actually you can immediately connect back to, right?
Hmm.
It's like, and I think it's cool your story because it involved both your mom and your dad, and
Yeah,
it wasn't that your mom didn't want you to have it. It was just that she was doing what was good for for what you guys had going on. But
exactly.
then to go and make your appeal to your dad, and him like, yeah, and he probably talked to your mom about it, and you just didn't know about it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure she probably gave him like the backstory and all the
Hmm.
intel that was necessary. Maybe like tug at the heartstrings, because
Right.
that guy, to come up off $1 was not easy.
Yeah, man.
Cut that part, because if he hears that, he's gonna he's gonna kill
Right,
me.
right.
No,
We'll edit that.
he did, no, he did. And I joke about that, but he did what he could, as well. And he kind of set that in motion for me, because he made it happen. There were quite a few times that I would ask for something, and he'd send the money, and I'd be at the local shop. And for me, we didn't really have many sneaker stores in Brooklyn where I was at in Greenpoint. We had to go deep into like downtown Brooklyn, and it was a little further trek. But we would go into this area called Steinway or Astoria, which was in Queens, and that's where he was from. So he knew a couple of the store owners already. So that kind of like that helped out, and that kind of planted the seed in a sense. Because then I would just every Wednesday I would take the train, pop into the store, like nod my head. And it was different back then. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have magazines. We had magazines, but like it just showed you what was already out. So, to go into the store and the counter would be there, and you'd see like the row of shoes that weren't already on the wall. You knew that was new stuff that was coming in, right? So it was like, okay, when's this dropping? Wednesday. But if you give me $20 more, I'll let you take it now, right? Uh, so once in a while it worked out. So it was cool. He definitely he set that plan in motion. So I give him credit for that.
It's dope,
Yeah.
man. So, like right now, would you consider yourself to be a sneakerhead? And whether you do or don't, like, what is the most interesting cop that you think you've picked up in your years of collecting?
Um, so I wouldn't necessarily say sneakerhead. I would say just like, man, I don't know, enthusiasts,
Yeah.
right? There's people that just love the love shoes. Excuse me. Um, there's people that are historians, aficionados. I mean, they know the entire backstory of a shoe. They could tell you from inception to retail, right?
Yep.
For
Yep.
me, it's just always been whatever's just drawn my attention, from design to color to feel to brand. Has always been what I've kind of drawn. What's always drawn me to it. Um, and it's always been that way. It's always been like opening up the magazines, and I saw the Jordan 11 when it first came out, and it was in a Source magazine. And back in the 90s, you didn't have a HD TV or anything like that, so you kind of just like you prayed that you could see what the shoe looked like. And there were a few times that you saw it on TV, but to actually see it in print and to see it out up close,
Hmm.
that set it up where I'm like, oh, I'm hooked. I need these. I got to
No
get
doubt.
these.
No doubt.
So that kind of set it up for me to just be just a lover of all things like sneakers. It was the clothes, the shoes, the socks,
Yeah.
if you can get the hat to match, and all of it to kind of just tie in, was great. It was all about just looking good, man. You know what I mean? Like that's all it came down to. As long as it looked good and you felt good, that's all it really broke down to. There wasn't so much history behind shoes at that time, and with sneakers. So, but the one shoe that I got that um I guess is the ultimate cop for me was the Yeezy Red October.
Oh, wow.
I sold it, obviously, because I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't have sold it, right? But I remember I was in my living room, and the rumor mill was circulating and saying that the shoe was going to drop at some point, but nobody knew when, right? And Nike was always doing, either the drops on Twitter, and you'd have to, I forgot the exact name for it, but you would have to like, circle the name in the tweet and type it in, and then they would give you access to purchase the shoe. I'm paraphrasing to an extent because I wasn't really on the internet like that much at the time. And then the day before, the Tiffany High Dunk had dropped, and
Okay.
everybody was going crazy for that shoe. So the focus was on that primarily. And then the next day, on a Sunday, on some random ass Sunday at like one o'clock, uh, I had my notifications on for Nike store, and it said now available the Nike Air Yeezy 2. And I ran into the bathroom, grabbed my phone, had my debit card in my hand because I didn't have nothing saved at the time, plugged it in, and just like threw up a hallelujah, a Hail Mary, hoping that it would hit. And not even 3 seconds later, we didn't have the Gotham screen at that time. It was just, it was a little picture of the shoe and your confirmation. Boy, when I tell you, I screamed like a girl. All right. And the shoe arrived 3 days later. We had Nike Talk. We had a couple other forums and whatnot. I had put feelers out on Twitter. No one really responded. I think like one person offered me like 1,500. I'm like, are you crazy? $1,500 for a red, and it was the last Yeezy with Nike because his contract was up. He was going to eventually be leaving. So I went on Craigslist of all places, threw it up. I got wild offers. Remember, they would talk about the kid with the Galaxy phone posit in the car. I had somebody talk about a car. I had somebody talk about a dog. I had you name it. And then finally, this kid locally, his father owned a pizzeria. He says, "Listen, I'll give you 5,000 for it right now. I'll meet you at the bank." Thought about it for like maybe 10 seconds. It was like, done deal. Meet me at the Chase Bank tomorrow morning. Dad showed up with the kid, 5 Gs and hundreds. I had the orange Nike box tucked under my shoulder, standing next to the security guard. Security guard's looking at me and the dad like, "What are y'all doing?"
Yeah.
Counted out 5,000 in hundreds, handed it off to him, and then with that money, at that time, I didn't have that many pairs. I think I had like maybe like 4 or 5. My mindset wasn't on shoes, and with that money, nobody knew. I ain't tell nobody. Took all that right to eBay. All right, let me get a pair of Bred Fours. Let me get these 11s again. Man, I had like 30 pairs at one point, I think, showed up. I'm like, Kobe High. Nike store, if I go back and I look at my search history or my order history within that time period, you'll see the Red October's purchase and then like just successive purchases right thereafter. And that was like, that was it. That you want to talk about the beginning of the end for me
Yeah,
when it
yeah.
comes to sneakers, that was it. That was it.
That was jet fuel for you, man.
Yeah, man. To rocket fuel. Took off and never looked back at that point. Whew.
That is hilarious, man. Hey, but what a story though, man. Like you
Yeah.
literally went to the bank and this guy's counting out
Yeah.
hundreds in front of the security
Dude,
guard,
the
man.
security guard was like, I'll never forget. He goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm we're just, transaction here." He goes, "What's in the box?" And I said, "It's a pair of sneakers." He looked at the dad. He goes, "You're giving him $5,000 for that in the box?" And I said, I'm laughing. The dude, Joe Pesci dude, I'll never forget it. "You're
Yeah.
giving him $5,000 for what's in the box?" He says, "Listen, my kid wants it. I got to get it for him." And the kid was like maybe 17 years old. So at
Okay.
that time, that was like what, 20, was that 2015,
Yeah,
2016?
something like that, yeah.
So that's like about 16 years old. So he's got to be in his 30s now.
Yeah.
But man, peel him off like that. Just let it go.
That is hilarious, man. I
Hey,
wonder if that pizzeria is still there and if we can just go knock on the door and say, "Hey, does the son still have those kicks?"
yeah, right. Yeah, I'll take him back, for a discounted price, but I'll take him back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like now, if you just had like a default pair that's like your go-to pair, like what pair do you just kind of automatically default to now?
Yeah. So default, there's two. And I've said this a few times. I've said the Soleil Banbury Crocs are
Mhm.
just like my put them in sport mode and go when it's the groceries, and no matter the weather, just make sure you wear some thick socks if it's really cold out.
Right.
But that's like my go-to to just get in and out. And then a pair of Air Max, man. Not neons, mandarins. I got mandarins on now. Anything 95. Excuse me, 95s, 90s, Silver Bullet 97s. Trying to think what else. What else I got? These CB 94s. Even though they're a bitch to get on, I still will consider that like an everyday shoe. Some
Yeah.
people might not consider that because it's so difficult to get on, especially with that sock liner.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the ones that I just kind of gravitate towards, and then then I have. I ain't even gonna get into it. And the rest is just sitting there. It's crazy. We talk about it all the time. We're like, we buy all these shoes and we don't even wear all of them.
Don't wear
They
them,
just
man.
sit, and it's
Yeah.
true.
No, it's true. It's true. Like there have been, many times where I've kind of gone and looked at them and almost kind of feel disgusted a little bit,
Yeah.
and, I have to kind of bring myself back to reality. I don't have any other vices. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't go to the strip
Right.
club, I don't do any of that
Yep.
stuff.
Hey,
Yeah.
got them J's though.
I got them days, brother. Absolutely, man. But you got to have something, right? You got to
You do.
like
You
have
do.
that thing to like take your mind off that pastime or whatever. So, most definitely. So, do you currently have a bucket list of sneakers that you just, it's like, man, if I could, work some things out, these are the couple pairs I would really like to get and put in my collection?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. Recently we got the whole Virgil, right? Virgil Abloh drop just happened a couple days ago. Those Alaskas came out, but anything from the 10 collection,
Yeah.
specifically the Chicago ones, obviously that's that to me is that's a grail because it's the search for it.
Mm,
Tough. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Very, very
Mm,
tough to try to ascertain. And prices they go up, they go down, but they're still at that price point where it's just like, bro, really? I'd have to
yeah.
like move like 10 pairs just to even make a dent on that shoe.
Absolutely.
Um, so it's definitely the Off-White Chicago one is one. And then truthfully, I would have liked to we just spoke about it, but I would have liked to have kept a Yeezy in my collection.
Yeah.
Specifically the Solars. I love the Solars, with the black and the glow in the dark and that solar red. You see a few people on Instagram and on Twitter flexing them from time to time, like T Mark, I know has a pair. I've seen them, and a lot of them are crumbling and things like that. But like, if I could have ever found like a good pair,
Hmm.
and at a price point that is tolerable or digestible,
Right.
maybe I'd make that happen. probably be between those two, and um, yeah, I would say those are probably the two that I would just be like, okay, if I had to like shut it down and just focus on those two,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be those.
Okay. Yeah, those are good choices, man. Like great shoes, and you're right. I would love to have that Virgil, the Chicago
Oh,
one.
oh,
I think in my size, there's somewhere between like 4,500 and 5,000, something like that.
yeah,
Like,
it's wild,
consistently,
man.
and absolutely no way I would drop that kind of bread on it. And then, they've been faked so much to the point to where it's like,
Yeah, it's
do you
tough.
even trust it?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's a tough scenario. It's a tough game to play. You don't know if you're going to get got. You don't know,
Hmm.
if it's cooked. If it's a good price, the pair's probably cooked in a
Yeah.
degree to a degree. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The mesh that's in that upper is it's not as I guess resilient. So you've seen some pairs where they're already like like severely yellowed and fraying and things like that. So it's like, is this going to be more of a collector's piece where I'm just going to put it in a glass case and I'm going to
Right.
look at it? Like I
Right.
can't see myself ever doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
I whatever I get is what I get because I intend to wear it.
Hmm.
I can't see myself staring at anything for too long. So it'd be a cold day in hell for me to spend that kind of money and just look at it in a box. Like it's not gonna happen.
Absolutely.
You
I'm
know?
with you, man. Got to wear
Yeah,
all the sleeves, bro. Got to wear them.
absolutely.
And the Jordan 1 Chicago is like my favorite shoe of all time.
Hmm.
And I would love to have that. I have like different iterations of that shoe,
Yes.
but definitely never had the Virgil and would love to have that. But, fingers crossed they'll follow suit with what they're doing with the Alaska. And
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's the
yeah,
case. Like I
yeah.
really, really hope. I could care less if it says off white
But
on
yeah,
the shoe
I
anymore.
don't
Give
care
me
anything
it's
about that.
VAA, cool. Knock yourself out. As long as it has
Absolutely.
the aesthetic and it looks the way, sign me up.
Sign me up, brother.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, So at the moment, how would you categorize your current wardrobe? And is it primarily streetwear? And then like knowing that you're a photographer, when you're putting together your wardrobe or even putting together a fit, does your mind as a photographer like come into play in regards to like how you put that together?
Yeah, I think for me it's I'm not I'm not I don't have a linear look or outlook on fashion. I don't stick to one thing. I've never conformed to specific like styles and things like that. In the 90s and the 2000s, the joke was Pretty Ricky's what they call them, because I was always dressed up, right?
Yeah.
Polo, Hilfiger,
Yeah.
Guess, the sneakers, all that other stuff. But then, as you get older and you mature a little bit, you don't necessarily start thinking about those things, right? You're just looking for comfort and does it look decent? And am I looking like, a soccer dad now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it changed a little bit. I find myself gravitating a little bit more towards like, athleisure to a degree. I'm 46, being out there taking pictures, trying to get on the ground to get
Yeah.
certain angles and stuff,
Right.
wearing denim, and it's just not conducive to what you're trying to do.
Right.
Some Dickies, I'll throw on if necessary, some Gap cargos. Really fallen in love with a lot of the stuff that I've seen with Abercrombie and Fitch, and
Yeah.
I'll give my flowers to a fellow ATL cat that's TaylorMade GQ.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Stuff to ferry.
again, we're the different ages categories here, but there's some things that he does that I look at and I'm like, I think I could get away with that at my age. Let me
Yeah.
try that and see how
Yeah.
that works. So there's definitely some influence there, no question. So I've grabbed a few pieces and I've thrown them on. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't look like I'm 46. All right,
Right.
I can make this work. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
doesn't look goofy. So and it's worked, and it's worked. I was a big jersey head growing up as a teenager.
Okay.
Authentics were very expensive at the time, so it was a lot of champion like replicas and whatnot. So I'd always wear like a jersey. That's the kids in the high school remember me for being that guy that was like when Jordan came back and was wearing the 45. I was at Modell's, which was our sporting goods store in New York. He came back on a Sunday against Indiana, and that following Monday, my ass ran to a Modell and picked up that jersey. And I was like the only person in my high school that had the jersey with the
Oh,
45.
wow.
And I had the 45 and I had the black, the steel toe, the toe cap tens.
Wow.
So Yeah, so that was like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. But
Absolutely.
again, I've always been a jersey guy. I've got a few jerseys still in the closet. I'll throw them on from time to time. I'm a huge Nick fan, so obviously anything is Nick related when it comes to jerseys now. Maybe a Jordan jersey from time to time if I can. But when it comes to photography, though, what you're seeing now, really realistically, this would be something like this. A pair of athleisure pants, some cargos, comfortable sneakers so that I don't have to worry about creasing or anything else like that. Getting into get angles and stuff. Brother D can attest to that because there's some weird stuff that I'm doing to get try to get a shot here and there.
Right, right.
It's definitely, if you see me from afar, you're like, what is this guy doing? All right, but then you see the photo and you're like, oh, that explains it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what it is realistically for
You
me.
got to do what it takes, man.
That's it. That's it. As long as I'm not wearing knee pads, I'm good.
Right, right. Yeah, if you wear knee pads, then yeah, you're going a little bit too far. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not need that one. You might need to get a tripod or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this might be a little bit controversial, but what side of New York or what borough, I guess we would be very specific here when we're talking, what borough in New York would you consider to be the most stylish?
Um, am I going to be biased to a degree? Yeah, I'm going to say
Yeah,
Brooklyn, right? Because that's where I'm
no
from.
doubt.
That's all I really saw. My mom was very very protective of me. Wasn't allowed off the block, and until at a certain point in my life,
Mhm,
you had to be home when the street light came on, and et
mhm.
cetera. And but I did go to school in New York, in Manhattan.
Okay.
I went to high school in Hell's Kitchen.
Wow.
I was in the High School of Graphic Communication Arts. I still remember the address, 439 West 49th Street between Ninth and 10th
Dope, dope.
Ave. So that says a lot. But because of that, I was able to see all the different boroughs and how what their styles were, what they attributed to fashion and what they considered fashionable. So you know, Manhattan kind of had a different style. Uptown had a different style. The Bronx, the one constant I do remember was the North Face bubble, North Faces, baggy jeans.
Mhm.
A lot of people were gravitating more towards like Vask boots, Gore-Tex boots during the winter. Laces to match, uh, polo, uh, uh, polo button downs, and all these different. Man, some people would go and get wild and get like snorkels or these really in-depth North Faces with like it looked like a metal plate on their chest, and I'm like,
Right.
bro, you're walking to high school, bro. You ain't going. You're not scaling Mount Everest,
Right,
right?
right.
But that was fashionable to them. But the one constant, the one thing that I know, was the guys from Harlem, Uptown, knew what it took to kind of put things together. My mom is I'm not clout chasing. I'm not doing anything. My mother's very good friends with Dapper Dan. Everybody knows
Okay.
who Dapper Dan is, right?
Yeah.
And that is primarily that is where the influence comes from. I think that trickled down from Harlem from him, and then it just kind of cascaded out onto everyone. And kind of just everybody just picked up on things. And again, a lot of it was based off of what we saw on TV, what the hip hop artists were wearing, and Queens had their own style. Like I said, Brooklyn had their own style, but
Yeah.
me personally, I feel like it came from Harlem and it went down and trickled out. Uh, but I just didn't conform to the norm. Like I said, I just however I felt on a Monday was what I wore on a Monday. If it was a jersey on Tuesday, it was a jersey on Tuesday. If it was, a Columbia rain suit in the '90s, I threw that on. Like it didn't matter. I didn't conform to the norm. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's dope,
but
man.
definitely there. I would say it started from there. Brooklyn don't kill me, but you know, that's where I stand.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Dapper Dan, man. He did some
Yeah,
incredible things for the culture.
no
Um,
question.
I know he had a book that came out 5 or 6
Hmm.
years ago, and, one of my homeboys, was the narrator for the audiobook. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah. So, it was funny, like, during COVID, I would ride my bike every day, and I would just put that book on the audio
Hmm.
version or whatever, and I got through
Right.
that book, and his story is pretty dope, man. It's amazing.
It is. The bugged out thing about it for me is that them two, my mother and him, are like the best of friends when they see each other. If it's like at a party or whatever the case may be, and she sends me the photos. Look, it's my buddy Danny. I'm like, what are you? What? I'm like, do you not know the cultural influence that this one man has on me and like everybody that's involved in the sneaker community and the fashion community, photography, in the arts? I'm like, and you're over here merengue with this guy, and I'm like, bro, give him my phone number. Like, tell him
Right.
to, come on, mom. She's like, well, we never really talk about business. We just dance, and I'm
That is
crazy, man,
hilarious.
crazy.
That is hilarious, man. She said, "We're gonna keep the business stuff separate."
That's
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
it. She go, what she said? She goes, that boy could dance, Rick. That man can dance. She's like, all right, hey, okay.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, obviously the sneakers and everything, that we've talked about, but we've hinted at the photography piece, man. Like what got you into photography?
Um, I had a friend. I still have a friend. He's here in Jersey. He's like a couple towns over.
Mhm.
Had first started. I got into Instagram just like everybody else did. Taking regular pictures, cooking the shit. Excuse me, cooking the photo, and like a
Yeah,
KO from ATAF had put something on Twitter the other day about how we just fried all of our pictures, our sneaker pictures on Instagram, put on the HDR filter,
right.
turned up the clarity all the way to like 100,
Yeah,
saturation on 1,000, right? And that was what I did. Like I started that, and that was you know there was the whole like get a pair of bread 11s, put it in the photo with a slice of bread, and
right.
get PB&J KD6s, and you had the peanut butter and jelly over there. Like that was just grape fives with a strip, with a vine of grapes. Like it was
Right.
cheesy. It was cheesy, but that was what everybody was doing at the time.
No
And
doubt.
I met this guy on Instagram. His name was Frank Kicks. He doesn't really take many sneaker photos anymore, but he was doing that. And I remember sending him a message and asking him, like, yo, why do your photos look so different from mine? Like, what are you doing differently? And he's like, well, I use a DSLR camera. And I'm like,
Mm,
what's that? He goes, just go look it up on Amazon, and then we'll talk about it. I'm like, all right. So I looked it up, and it's a professional camera. Like
mhm.
it's the type of stuff you see in studios. And it was specific lenses needed to be used. It was uh, there's artistic forms of photography that it talked about, and different styles and all this other stuff. And I'm like, bro, I just want to take pictures of sneakers. Okay, serious? I'll just use my iPhone. And he said, well, you know what? Listen, why don't we meet up one day, and I'll kind of show you the ropes. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we met up. And I mean, when I tell you, down on the ground, kneeling, bending over, certain angles, different lenses, different apertures, different, like all of these different details, but to take photos. And I'm like, my mind is blown, but I'm like, yo, this is pretty cool. All right. So went home, jumped on Amazon, found the first kit I could find that was moderately priced, picked it up, and the rest was history. And this was in 2014.
Okay.
And I trial and error, a lot of horrible looking pictures going into this. In the beginning, it was it's an atrocity if I go back and I look at what I do now versus what I did then, and I'm like, man, it's like you look at when your kids go to kindergarten, they bring you home the piece of artwork. You're like, oh,
Right.
honey, this looks great, and
Right.
oh, is that a cat? No, that's dad. Like that was my photo. You know what I mean? So I'm like, damn.
Oh,
But
that's
now
hilarious.
yeah, it's like I've progressed, and I owe him a lot. But I eventually got hooked up with a bunch of sneaker photographers. They were in a group called the Legion of Souls, and this was that was when clicks were still the thing, on Instagram, and it was a group of individuals, and we've still remained friends to this day. We've been to weddings, we've been to each other's houses, hung out, we've gone to special events and stuff. But those guys were the ones that roasted the hell out of me, and made me want to be better and not be stuck in this muck, if you will, that like everybody was in, of just taking the same type of photos. And they really pushed me to do better and be better. And it just, the roast sessions were horrible, man. I took a picture one time, and there was a car that drove past me, and it was you could see like the shutter was pretty low, if I'm not mistaken, and you could see the red lines behind it. And one of my guys takes the photo and throws a meme up, and he's like, "Roadside assistance, call AAA." I'm like, damn. And I mean, it was bad. Like it was bad. They used to call me my name on Instagram was Rick Fury when I first started.
Okay.
They used to call me Rick Blurry because my photos were so out of focus. They were bad. It was just terrible. And I mean, they beat the shit out of me, part of my language,
No,
until
you good.
I got myself right. And that was it. And it's been that way ever since.
That's dope, man. That's dope. And it's funny, man, because there's a true difference between like to get a DSLR is one thing, right? Because they're a little bit more pricey, but
Hmm.
it's a huge thing when you take that thing off manual and take it off auto and put it into
Yes.
manual.
Oh,
And then you try to figure out like how do you make this thing work, and that's when you know that you're falling in love with taking pictures is because if you take the time to learn how to shoot
yeah.
manually,
Hmm.
like yeah, there's something special about that, man, for sure.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And let me just say this before we go on to the next thing. Don't this is to anybody aspiring to be a photographer or to shoot sneakers or anything else like that. Don't box yourself in. Don't think that you have to buy a camera in order to um, uh, create art or to do anything like that.
Hmm.
You'd be doing yourself a disservice to say, "Oh, I have to get a camera in order to do this." It's not the camera. It's not the lens, it's the person behind it, the creativity that is in that mind of yours.
Hmm.
That's not artificial intelligence, that's organic intelligence, that's OI. That's you being out there and recognizing that I can use a phone, Nate Frost, to make
The
a right? To make a
homie Nate.
photo look amazing. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So don't ever box yourself in. Don't ever feel like you have to you got to spend that money to do it. I mean, I've Nate's one of them. I know there's quite a few other individuals that use phones, and they probably don't say anything about it. But they're so good at it that it does look like it's being shot on a professional camera. So
Yep.
you never know.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah. Like years ago, it was like I told myself the only time that I can shoot is with a DLSR. I don't
Mhm.
want to shoot without it, and
Right?
I would miss out opportunities. But then I just got tired of lugging that thing around, man. And
Yeah,
the only thing I shoot is my phone now. I
that's
sometimes
it.
I want to pull it out, but it
Yeah.
just takes so much effort.
But you can listen, you've done I've seen you take some stuff too where I'm like, it's questionable. Is it a phone or is it a camera?
Mhm.
So if let me just put it like this. If we think that way, then you're doing a phenomenal job. You know what I mean? So kudos to you and anybody else that's doing it out there with just a cell phone. Trust me.
Appreciate you, my brother, for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah, man. So you kind of hinted on this before, but back in the day, we would take photos for fun. It was just like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we love. And now social media has changed so much, right? That it's like, people get on there and they think that they have to present this certain image or whatever. So like what is your take of the evolution, of social media? And do you, feel like we're in a good place or like how do you feel about where we are now in the state of
I,
social media?
I'm not a hater. I think everybody's gotten into the space. A lot of people have gotten into the space now,
Mhm.
primarily like photography and sneakers, and they've kind of carved their own niche out, and people are still trying to kind of find their way in doing that. And you know, it's all well and good. I think people are trying to they're trying to find their way, number one, and it's tough when the market or the medium is a little oversaturated, no pun
Mhm.
intended at the moment.
Yeah,
But there's always things that can be done to kind of set yourself apart from everybody. I think we're in a good space where people are starting to realize that, and they're also starting to branch out and do things do things differently to kind of set themselves apart from it. And it's a progressive thing. I think it's not. I don't believe that it's something that is going to happen immediately. I think that just happens over time. Once you start to kind of feel your skills increasing and you feel like you're getting better and you want to try different things, then by all means go and do that. I have noticed, it's becoming a bit transactional now, where it's a lot of it is being put out there, success is based off of, follower counts, success is based off of dollar amounts and what people are making and this, that, and the third, and, the deals that they're getting or the stuff that they're getting seeded
Right.
and everything else like that. And that's always a tough topic on, on Twitter. We know that already.
Right. Right.
The discourse surrounding seeding and all this other stuff. And, it's, it's not hurtful, but it kind of hurts the medium itself and photography. And it's like, look, if you're really in it for just the love, then none of that stuff is gonna bother you, realistically. It will if it's meant to happen for you, where a box shows up at the crib, it's an organic thing. You know what I mean? Or if somebody reaches out to you, it's natural, it's not forced, it's not begged, it's not none of that, and I see a lot of people. I watch a lot. The one thing I don't do is I don't engage in a lot of back and forth on that app, because you'll get lost in the
Oh
sauce
man,
if you. All
absolutely.
right. So I've said this before. I've kind of found an enjoyment in X and Twitter, because I kind of keep my opinions to myself, and I just I read a lot, and I'm an empath to a degree, so I empathize with a lot of people and their feelings and stuff, and feeling like, in order for them to be validated, they have to have had that box show up at the house,
Right.
or gotten that new T-shirt or whatever the case may be. And I was in that at one point. I felt like, man, why can't I get this, and this guy's getting this, and I'm not. But I really had to like take a step back and be like, you know what? Is that what you're really doing this for? Like, are you really
Right.
doing this because you want stuff to show up at your house? Is that really why you picked up the camera? Like, you have to really like talk to yourself
Yep.
and challenge yourself sometimes. Like, yo,
Yep.
is this really what this is all about? No, it's not. Like, I remember picking this up because, yeah, I wanted to show off my
Yeah.
shoes,
Yeah.
right? Or I wanted to like learn photography principles, and I wanted my stuff. There was a guy that used to shoot for Kicks on Fire. His name was Andy Diaz. Andy was like one of the best sneaker photographers, on foot sneaker photographers, that was there. He doesn't do it a lot anymore. I haven't seen any of his stuff lately, but that was like the dude. That was the guy you chased, when you were doing this stuff. And that was my why. Like, I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be on Kicks on Fire. I wanted to
Yeah.
be their photographer. Or I wanted to be on Nike, and I wanted to be their photographer. And so, like, it wasn't all about the tangible, right? It wasn't about the product. It was what was in here. And we're getting away from that sometimes. And people are probably gonna come for me with what I'm saying now. I could
No.
care less, because
No.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But it's, a lot of it has become transactional to a degree, and I feel like a lot of it is now about, what is it with them? What's in it for me? You know what I mean? And it's not like, what can I give to it? Um, so that's one thing that I've reminded myself
Hmm.
over and over again. And you'll see, I've done some work with some of the brands, and you see like my stuff like off foot and, e-com related stuff and things like that. But my heart and the crux of this whole thing, excuse me, is on foot shots. And either in my warehouse, outside of the warehouse, in Brooklyn, wherever I could get in where I fit in, is where I'll pop off and take a shot. Well, but like, that's just my thing. Like, I've always preferred, that's my niche. That's my photography. I've always loved on foot, living in my shoes,
Yep.
showing you my shoes that
Yep.
way. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that, we get back to that to an extent. Like, I don't see much of that anymore. I see a lot of like in-house stuff being done, and that's cool. I get it. I'm not saying anything negative on that. Everybody's got to get in where they fit in, like I said. But for me,
Yeah.
that's just me. That's
Yeah.
how I roll.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally understand that, man. And, I'm the same way. I just kind of want to illustrate how this shoe looks in real life out in the wild.
Yeah,
And, I stick to that. That's my little small swim lane that I stay in.
right there with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like social media is like a double-edged sword,
It is.
and we have the monster that is created, but then
Hmm.
we have those, and I know that you and I kind of fit in that mode, but there are other people that are, we self-evaluate and we do recalibrate to know why we are doing what we're doing.
Yes.
So, like, how has social media like helped your personal brand? Because there are some benefits to it. It's not, you know, we don't all have to go down that rabbit hole to think that okay, yeah, it's this like Twitter's a cesspool. I'm gonna say that out loud, but um, but
Yeah.
there's some benefits there too because what I found is that a lot of brands tend to go find people. They may see them on Instagram, but it's almost like they go
Hmm.
find people on that
Hmm.
app, and I rarely post on that app. But like, how
Yeah.
has social media helped your personal brand?
So the joke is, I always feel like there's somebody watching me. It's
Yeah,
always on Twitter. It's
yeah,
never Instagram is the quick snapshot
hmm,
of the day or what you right.
yeah.
Twitter, if you know how to use it and you're effective in how you communicate and understanding the nuances of all the whole thing, can be leveraged in a very successful and be very successful for you, or you can become very successful utilizing.
Okay.
Um, my personal story with me was, um, I I've been on Twitter for God knows how long now. I think since like 2015. I only used it at one point because I was just, for sneakers. I would use it to just have notifications for releases and
Mhm,
stuff like that. And you go down the rabbit hole one day and you start finding Spanish Twitter, Black Twitter,
mhm.
political Twitter, and
Right.
it all just starts coming at you, and you're like, oh, all right, and you start following all these people,
Right.
and a lot of them at the end of the day, all these different niches on Twitter all kind of tied into one thing and one commonality, and that was all sneakers.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, kind of cool. All right, I see where this is going. So I would always just listen to or read the trends, and read into the trends, or what the topics of the day were, and eventually I said, you know what? Getting tired of throwing my stuff up on Instagram only. Let me try and see what happens on Twitter, right? So I started throwing up photos on Twitter, and followers started coming in because it's like, oh, all right, this is a break from the norm, right? It's like you go on Twitter to just, it's like a mind dump kind of app, right? You just want to get it's like therapy for some people.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me break up the monotony here, and let me just throw up some photos and see what happens on my feed. And I started doing that, and more people were chiming in, and there was actual dialogue with my photos, like versus Instagram, where it's like I get the fire emoji and I get the thumbs up emoji and I get the flames and I get
Right.
like I don't get it's not as is intense as it is on Twitter,
Okay.
right? Like people, there's a lot of feedback, there's a lot of thought and discussion and things like that. Why did you shoot it like that? Why did you use those colors? Why did
Yeah.
you oversaturate? Why did you do this, do that?
Yeah.
So I did all that, and then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, man, how can I like parlay this into something beneficial? And I was on one afternoon, and I was following this person named on Twitter. It's Kelshme. It's actually Amy Kelsey, and she was at the time she was one of the lead designers for Jordan Brand's PE department. And at the time, she was tweeting to Seth Rogen that she wanted one of his vases. It was like a bong vase or something like that. And she basically was saying to him in the tweets, like day one of tweeting Seth Rogen in hopes of getting a vase. So I'm like, all right, I think I got it. So I would take my photos and I would go on Twitter and I'd post them, and I would say day one of tagging Kelshmi, um, with the hopes of being signed to Jordan Brand to be a product photographer or
That's
whatever the case,
dope.
right?
That's dope.
So I did that for like, I want to say like maybe a month. I got to go back and look. I don't know how many days it took, but at one point, and we followed each other at one point, and there was dialogue here and there, like jokes and all this other stuff. And I'll never forget it. I was at the convenience store grabbing some stuff, and I'm getting in my car, and I get the alert that I get a DM, and it's from Kelsey, and I open it up, and she's like, "Hey, what's your phone number and what's your email?" She's like, I can't guarantee you anything, but just give me that and I may have something for you. And I'm like,
Wow.
nah, nah. I'm like, you lying. Where's the camera?
Word.
Right. It's like, so I'm like, all right, I gave her my phone number. I gave her the email. I didn't hear anything from anybody. It's like, it's always one of those things where it's like, you get the girl's phone number and you never hear from her for like a week to 2 weeks. And then finally you guys talk again. It's like, oh, I got it, gave her the information, and like 2 days later, I get an email from the VP of Jordan Brand's PE department. His name is
Whoa.
Jarrett Mann.
Word.
and he says, "Hey, seen your work on Instagram, seen your stuff on Twitter, love what you do. Um, we don't really have a big budget for this right now. We're the PE department. We don't really, we're not out in media and stuff like that. But I'd love to send you some samples to see what you can cook up with these things and see how it goes." I'm like, "All right, cool." I didn't think anything of it. 2 days later, I get a overnight package, FedEx, and it's got my name on it from Borman Drive in Oregon. I'm like, no
Yeah,
way.
that's what's up.
Ran upstairs. I had just got home from work. Ran upstairs. Told my girlfriend at the time, "Call you back. I'll be right back." And ran upstairs. I ain't called her back. Called her back about 2 hours later. Opened up the box and just bubble wrap. Pulled off the top, and it was a pair of Jordan 11 IELOs and a Jordan 36 that was designed for Luka Doncic, and it was based off of Luka played for Barcelona, and his affinity for the Matadors out there in Spain. So it was like red like satin with gold accents, and I've taken pictures. It's on my Instagram. At and a Jordan 36 at the time. That was the model number that was out, and it was called the Tunnel Pack, and it was basically like the retro was what they would wear in the tunnel before the game, and then they would go out on the court, and this was before they had their own signature shoe, and they would have the 36 in a similar style, the look. And beneath it was the Jordan 14 for Jason Tatum, and it was the Mustang,
Yeah,
the one that I've taken. It's the all black patent leather low with the
yeah.
Mustang accents, and a 36 to coincide with it, and took pictures of it. They loved it, and the rest was history. And this was in 2023, 2022, 2023. Ever since then, that's been it. I've been, in the fold. I'm not hyping myself up, but I have my connections over at Nike basketball now. I am the quote unquote unsung hero of Nike basketball.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
some instances, like, we appreciate you and all this other stuff. You don't know what you did. And let me just say this, a lot of this stuff that I do, you guys will never see, because a lot of the stuff is, it's internal work. It's stuff for presentation. It's shoes that you're over here talking about the Ja 3. I'm already looking at the Ja 5.
yeah.
So, like, do I want to chase the clout sometimes? Sure. I could run to all these blogs and be like, here,
Yeah,
what was it
yeah,
that Soul Retriever told Adidas? Hey guys, like, no,
yeah.
like, I can't do that. Like,
No,
I've given them my word that I wouldn't do that. So,
absolutely, man.
but
Word
it, it,
bond.
it helped me out big time.
Yeah, yeah. And those relationships mean way more than that 15 minutes of clout or whatever it is, man.
You have no idea the relationships that I've fostered because of my my honesty and my nobleness, I guess you'd say.
Yeah,
And willingness to just be like, look, this is, you got it. Don't worry about it. No, this will never leak. It won't be this. If it leaked, it didn't come from me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a blessing. Trust me
yeah.
when I tell you.
Absolutely, man. And that's the part that a lot of people miss, man. Like everybody wants to be famous, everybody wants to be rich, man. But those aren't the things that last, man. Those
Mm-mm.
relationships and everything that you built, I mean, they're gonna reap dividends forever, man.
Absolutely.
And so that's yeah, big hats off to you for that, man. Super happy about that for you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, you know, thinking about social media and, as it continues to evolve, what do you think the toughest part of, for being a creator to remain relevant? Everybody's fighting for position, jockeying for position, you know, as
Mhm.
things continue to like just move and change, like how do you think people can remain relevant in social media?
It's tough. There was I was reading an article on X today. There's some stuff going on with Meta and with specifically with Meta, right? There's
Mhm.
some court related things
Yeah.
with toward talks of addiction and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
it's sad, right? It's definitely sad that we're even having to have that discussion and for it to be in a court system.
Right.
Um, so, therein comes that drug, right? That need to be famous,
Hmm.
that need to be relevant. But um, if you want to be on social media because you have a love for something, and that's cool. that's all well and good. Let that be the driving force, but don't get caught up in the facade of it all, and thinking that just because somebody has 1 million followers, 2 million followers, that this is their life. Those things are orchestrated. You know what I mean? Those posts are not what you think they are. I'm dope in real life
Right.
is what I say to people.
Yeah.
Time in and time again. It's like you see what you see on IG, but I'm dope in real life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
try to take that thought process, and if you want to, do something with social media, just be authentically yourself, man. Just be you.
Mhm.
Don't stick to a script. Don't have. I get it to a degree. Like there's certain people that need, things to be kind of uniform and whatnot. If you're really just trying to be out there and touch someone's life, or be an inspiration to somebody, and make it that way, then just be authentic, man. Stop with the games. Be who you are, and just accept who you are. And if you're corny to a degree, you're corny.
Hey,
But you know what?
yeah.
You could be inspiring some other corny kid.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
doing that nerdy thing, or whatever the case may be. But that's you.
Yep.
We've gotten away from all that. Like Tom wants to be like Harry. Harry wants to be like Tom.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, brother. You can do you and not have to conform to what this guy's doing.
Absolutely.
Like I look at and when I talk about fashion and stuff like that, like I look at certain people's wardrobes and I'm like, yeah, that's a dope outfit, but it
Mhm.
ain't gonna work for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there are people that will look at that and be like, all right, yeah, I'll make that work. No,
Right.
it ain't gonna work for you. It's not gonna work for you. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. So it's like, don't fall into that trap of just wanting to be like everybody else, man.
Right.
Unplug from the matrix one day, and like really just see what it's all about. And you want to plug back in, but plug back in as you, as Gabriel,
Absolutely.
as Rick, as whoever's watching this now. Like be authentically you. Don't get caught up in this whole, wanting to be somebody. You are somebody, whether it is a follower account or not. It is You are somebody. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Do not tie your value to any of this stuff. Like none of this stuff
It
is
can
real.
go like that. What do we do if this whole court system, this whole court case and everything else? What if the government just decides one day, like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter,
Mhm.
like if it all goes away,
Yeah.
who are you?
Who are you? Yep.
Who
What are
who
you
are
gonna
you?
do?
Like
Yep.
if you can't replicate that onto your social medias, you're lost.
Yeah.
You've lost.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And so many people do tie their self-worth and value and everything into that, man. And it's a shame, and you can kind of point that out. You can see it and
Oh
how
yeah.
people move, and you know that's why everything I try to do is organic, man. And it was like years ago. One of my buddies, he's a physician in Charlotte, and he's a general practitioner. And there was this young lady who was in high school that her mom had brought her there for a doctor's appointment, and she was in the little room. And when he walked in, she was on her phone, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm looking at this guy on Instagram. He posts his sneakers, and I love it." And it's like whatever, whatever. And he was like, "Give me that phone. Let me take a look at that." And um, he started laughing. He's like, "Yeah, that's my buddy." and
Was it
she
you?
was watching my page, man.
Okay. Okay.
And when he told me that story, I was like, "Dude, stop lying, man. That didn't happen."
Hmm.
He's like, "Yeah, yeah, it did happen." And you just don't know like
You
who
don't.
you're inspiring just by being yourself, you know. And I found that very poignant because, I don't have an agenda. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't,
Right.
I just do it because I love it. And for
That's it.
someone to have like seen it and thought something of it, for me, like that's a win,
Yeah.
that's a win, man.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So we gotta, so a couple things. One thing I want to know is that Is there any advice that you would give someone who wants to be a photographer, especially around sneakers, and how they should utilize the apps and that kind of thing? What are your thoughts as far as like what you would tell a person on how to be successful with that?
Don't well, imitation is the best form of flattery,
Hmm.
right? No question.
Hmm.
There's a ton of us out there. Jared Moody, myself, 80 Sneaks,
Hmm.
Arab Lincoln,
Hmm.
Nate, Craig, no Ice Cube is on the come up. He's
Yep.
been doing some stuff.
Great stuff.
Cultivating Cool
Hmm.
is
Great
up
stuff.
there.
Yep.
The one of the gods I call Jordan Kaiser, right?
Yeah.
Jordan and
Jordan.
Jordan and Tyler, right, are like, neck and neck in
Yeah.
a sense in this
Yeah.
this industry, if you will. They're in a stratosphere all their own.
Absolutely.
And then there's all of us. Everybody's kind of got a part of it, right? Um, take inspiration from those guys, that I've named. If you don't know who they are, you can simply search them on Instagram or Twitter and find them there, and use that kind of like a baseline to understand what we do or how they do it. um and then don't be afraid to learn, like put yourself out there, ask the questions. DMs are open. My DMs open.
Hmm.
Andy's, I'm sure, is open. I
Yep.
know, Jared's. We had a space a few months ago. It was myself, Jared, AD, it was Jordan. Who else? Jared was on there. I think it was us four. Oh, and then Haas had hosted.
Hmm.
And a lot of people joined, man. There were a lot of questions, and it's like, we're not against giving out free game. You know what I mean? Is there some gatekeeping? Once in a while, if it's like a new thing, maybe, but
Right.
like
Right.
I doubt that's really the case, right?
Right.
Um, you know, but that's your baseline, right? Those are the guys if you want to like learn sneaker photography. Now, if you want to learn photography and the principles itself, and you don't have the time or the resources, the funds to go to school, YouTube, man.
Yeah.
That was my friend. Like
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many times I have it up on my TV. I have my own account, on YouTube, and my girlfriend has come home and I'm watching TV. She said, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, you know, learning, different settings for low light, or different settings for this lens, or different detailing, or how to edit certain photos and things like that." And you piece all those things together. You
Hmm.
Frankenstein.
Yep.
Just never be afraid to just educate yourself. You're not Humble yourself. You don't know what you're doing when you first come into to this space. You don't know what you're first doing when you first pick up a camera. Don't lie to yourself and think you know what you're doing. Take the time to really learn. And if you have ADHD like I do, and that stuff is like important to you, photography, your ass will sit in front of the TV and watch because it's so interesting to you. You know. Now you start talking about like mathematics and all this other stuff, you've lost my interest. But if we're talking about shutter speed and aperture, and certain types of lenses and cameras and focal lengths, and you got my attention. You got my attention, and that's really, that's a good baseline. Again, YouTube, the sneaker photographers themselves, going into a local Barnes and Nobles or a library and picking up a photography book. That's the old way of doing it, but there's still a lot of good and useful information found in those stacks, or in those bookshelves, man. I've found myself numerous times going into a store and being like, "Oh, that's a book on Photoshop. All right, let me pick this up and see what I could take from it." You're not going to take all of it. You're not going to
Right.
learn all of it,
Right.
right? But the things that really speak to you and that you really want to do, they're there. Trust me when I tell you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's dope, man. That's dope. Great advice. Great advice for sure, man. You got to be inquisitive and you got to take the time to like just go in and dig into it and don't be afraid to dig into it, right?
Nope. Can't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. So, we got to talk about fitteds. What pushed you into that lane and how have you integrated it into your photography?
So what pushed me is I got no hair. That's number one. No.
I'm right there with you, brother.
Yeah, yeah. I've no, I've always loved fitted hats. It started with the snapbacks, starter snapbacks in like 92, 93.
Hmm.
They're making a comeback. Professor Skula, if you follow him on Instagram, right? He's been kind of leading the charge to bring back what once was old. And I've seen a lot of the stuff that he's gone into like retro conventions and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I remember I had that hat and I used to
Yeah.
tag my name underneath the brim and all this other stuff. But it started with that. And then my uncle it was and still is a huge Yankee fan, and we had a store in Greenpoint where I was from. It's called BQ Sports. They had New Era fitted hats, the 5950s,
Hmm.
and he had a Yankee hat, but he also had this New Era hat that it was odd. I remember the name of how they called it, but it's for the New York Giants, and it had the actual G logo for the
Yeah.
Giants,
Yeah.
and it had an interlocking NY like on the football helmet, and it was dope. I was like, oh, what is that? And I remember asking him like, where'd you get it? He's like, BQ. I went and made real good friends with the ownership there and everything else like that. I mean, I was broke; I couldn't buy a hat at the time,
Yeah.
but I looked at it and I'm like, "Oh, this is dope." And they were wool made at the time. It
Okay.
was different types of materials being used. And then I want to say in like the 2000s, was it 2001, 2002? Remember when they were doing all the patches,
Yep.
all the different teams and stuff, and had the NBA logo in the middle with all that was it.
That was it.
The It was that, and when Spike brought out the all red Yankee fitted,
Yeah.
I was the only guy to ever do a Yankee hat that was not navy blue.
Yeah.
And Spike set the precedent for that, and it changed the landscape of fitted hats. And it was red, it was yellow,
Yep.
royal blue, navy blue, black, green. I had them all. I had
Wow.
them all.
Okay.
And I had hair back then, so it was like it was just it was a part of my uniform, if you will. Like it was just a hat and matched everything.
No doubt.
I might even have a photo of me from high school when I was like 16 or 17. It's black and white. I'm sitting there writing in my notepad, and it's the photo of me with these big ass Peter Parker glasses and a Yankee hat. And yeah, it since mid 90s, man. It's always been that way. And then I stuck to a regular Navy Yankee fitted, and then I want to say in 2021, I don't know what happened, but everybody started doing like these custom fitteds, and they call them hooks now. So it was like it was a New York Mets hat, but it was a New York Mets logo, but it would have the colors of the New York Islanders hockey team. So it was like a crossover. And um, I just went like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. Like Hat Club had done this whole they not weird, but they did like this hardwood classics kind of deal, and it was they did this whole crossover thing, and they did it for hockey and MLB. They did the NBA and MLB. They did some NFL stuff, and then that hooked me. And they had this thing called the Aux Pack, which was it was a major league team, but then the colors were associated with an album cover or a hip hop artist, and one of them was Kanye, and I think it was Graduation.
Yeah.
So it had all the fluorescent like purples and greens and pinks and yellows. Bro, my mind was blown at that point.
Okay.
When I tell you I was on that app every week, man, buying and buying and buying. Bro, I had like stacks at one point, and then finally I just was like, okay, I gotta chill. I only got one dome to do this with. Let me scale back a little bit. I've sold a lot recently.
Okay.
I've trimmed it down, but I have quite a few that like every day I go on Twitter like Happy Hat Club Monday and throw up the hat with the shoe, and
Yeah.
there's always a match. I can't. It's got a match.
No doubt. No doubt. No, that's dope, man. That's dope.
Yeah.
And just kind of, go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. Like, what do you think the culture is going to look like within the next 3 to 5 years? And, that's around sneakers, fashion, fitteds, like just the whole culture in general. Like, what's your theory about how things are going to look in the future?
I would like to say I think that there's a significant progression with style. I would think there's more uh, discussion or conversation of surrounding that. Not so much on from a social media perspective. I think more for going outside or being outside, like we said, right post COVID. Which we're starting to see again, which is fantastic because a lot of these activations and stuff right? It's getting the people going. Like
Yeah,
people are out
no
and they're
doubt.
doing things now. You know, one guy, No Idea is original. Is a big guy over on Instagram. Just had a recent event, Air Max Day. What was on the 21st? Well, actually, Air Max Day is tomorrow,
Mhm.
on the 26th. But he had something in New York City, at Home Game New York, down on Essex Street in downtown Manhattan. And when I tell you, I've seen video. That place was flooded. I
Wow.
mean, there was so many people outside for this event that, like, you can see, the connection being made behind it, and it was, it was different. It was old. What once was old now is new again to a degree, because it
Yeah.
was like the meeting of the minds to a degree, that weren't just necessarily hiding behind a phone and doing their thing and getting the numbers that way. Like, you literally had to go outside to cultivate those relationships and
Right.
get those things moving. And
Yep.
I'm starting to see that again, and I'm hoping that that's the direction that we're heading in, is a lot more in person, getting to know people, establishing legitimate friendships. And the term that's used so loosely is my brother or my sister,
Yeah.
right? On these apps, right?
Yeah.
And it's all well and good when we use it how we use it.
Hmm.
But are you really truly my brother at the end of the day?
No
Like,
doubt.
there are generally, I can count on, like, my hands and my toes how many people I can consider my brother or my sister.
Yeah.
Um, but I would hope that at some point, that is not the case, and we've established legitimate relationships outside of social media, because, like I said, it all goes away one day. What are you going to do? you know the president's Pete, I'm name dropping throughout this whole thing, but Premium Pete
Good.
calls it presence, PRES. I'm doing my spelling bee here. Presence, PRESCENCE, presence. I think that's what it is. Presence over presence,
Yeah.
right? The actual gifts,
Yeah.
right? Your presence is more of a gift to me than the actual box that you're going to hand me. And I think that's where we not that we get lost, but we've lost that to a degree.
Yep.
And I think once we realize that it's the value of the connection and the relationship that we can have outside of this phone or that computer or whatever, is where we'll start to see some change, or we'll start to see things progress. And I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it coming.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I can see that it's heading in the right direction. The youth behind it
Hmm.
are doing some really impressive things, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. And I'll be that old man or that OG in the corner watching everybody do what they got to do.
No
And
doubt.
somebody can call me Unc. I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, that to me is a blessing, that I've spent enough time doing all this, that I've seen it, the cultural shift and the change
Hmm.
over this, the course of time, to get to where get to where it's gotten to take that step back, cross your arms, and be like, yeah, all right, we're in a good state. I
No
think we
doubt.
got this.
No
So
doubt.
I think that's where we're gonna be at.
Absolutely, man. Yep. Yep. That's dope, man. I appreciate that too. Great perspective. And I agree 100%, man. Everything's going to be good. Everything's going to be good, man.
Yes, sir.
So, I appreciate, man, your time for being here, but I want to make sure that you plug yourself, man. Like, tell people where they can find you. If there's something that you got going on, how can they support you? Just give the
Sure.
people the rundown.
All right. So you can find me on Instagram, Uninstructed Vision. You can find me on X or Twitter, Uninstructed718. I am in the process of finalizing an LLC to make things legitimately official. So if you want to shoot me an email, at the moment it is uninstructed imagery at gmail.com. If you're interested in maybe collaborating, if you want to talk about, potential photo shoots, things like that. Myself and Brother D have done some significant work over the past year together, in a collaborative effort. And that to me is just organic. We've done that and developed a really good friendship based off of that. And
Mhm.
I could be your friend too. Um, but there's that. And then, I don't necessarily like to plug myself. I kind of feel like, my work speaks for itself. People know me to a degree, so I don't have to be like, look at me. But if I'm going to speak about some people, typically or generally, I would say, like, a lot of the guys that are on Twitter and the ladies that are on Twitter that are doing some phenomenal work with, giveaways, with donation drives and things like that. Brother D did one not too long ago in his hometown in Jersey.
Yep.
Dolly J,
Yes,
she did some work
Dolly.
over in Connecticut, right? Shout out to Dolly. She's done amazing work with her
Yeah.
charity.
Yeah.
Jay Guidos and Jay's Fire
Hey.
Fridays. I know he does
Hey.
some stuff at the school, cleaning shoes and stuff, and
Yeah. Dope, brother.
making it so that being an inspiration to the kids in the school, and then just being inspiration to like others. Like
Mhm.
he doesn't have to do that. Like
Right.
he's doing that because he genuinely wants to do that. So I'm all for plugging people that are about people, not about themselves. So to those three specifically, I salute you. Continue doing what you're doing,
Yep.
and God will bless you all. Trust me.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, hey, I agree with you 100% about that. And all of those people are dope people, and they're doing great things. They're having, what I hashtag impact, they're
Yes,
having true impact on society, on culture, and, on people's lives. So that's the part that matters the most. Right. So yeah. Well, Rick, once again, brother, thank you so much, man. This has been awesome. And I think that, everybody who listens to this is going to get a lot out of it, man. A lot of inspiration, a lot of perspective, and it's kind of cool, like hearing a lot of the stories that you had growing up and how you got connected to sneakers and photography and everything, man. So I really
appreciate it.
appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. And hopefully
Absolutely.
we'll see you in the future, brother.
All right, my man. Thank you so much again for the opportunity. We'll do this again.
No doubt. Peace now.